Okay, guys, welcome to the Run Cheltenham Race Strategy Workshop. The first time we've done this, pretty excited. And I feel like it's even more special because of the changes we've had to the course this year. And I'm really looking forward to taking you through those as I let more people in. Tonight we're going to work through the courses, so both courses, the 10K and the half marathon routes, and then we will discuss all the things that could influence a race strategy. Okay, so I don't know how many of you have ever thought about what speed is realistic for you to aim for, even if it's just for the first half of a race. But I've found it very beneficial for myself and many of the runners that I've coached over the years, because what we're really trying to avoid is the situation most people get themselves into with Cheltenham's races, is ending up finishing a lot slower than what they want to, even though they may have started at a pace that they were happy with. It could be that the heat gets on top of them, or maybe it's just that the race course was the killer, or maybe they hadn't done the training. But there's a number of reasons why every year we get members who just did not enjoy the Cheltenham 10K or half marathon. So I really want to limit that number this year, and hopefully we can get more people raving about the events like I was last year when I managed to get through it. So we'll dive straight in. I'm going to share my screen to my left. It's brilliant. They've not only shared the old animation on the route maps page, they've even got it all mapped out on Strava. So that's both the 10K and the half marathon. So you can dive into this, after this workshop if you'd like. But I've opened them up on separate tabs, and I've only just realised that the start is back at the old start point, which the park and ride up on the top, and the finish is right down at the bottom where we started last year. So that's quite a big change, and in fact it's going to I'll make this bigger. It's going to really basically mean that you get more downhill than you get uphill, right? Because the start is higher than the finish, which is nice, especially since the finish is very downhill, which is what we've all been waiting for. So we're now going to get straight into the start. So as you'll see, we're coming out onto New Barn Lane, heading down New Barn Lane. The 10K goes straight down. I call this a State Pressbury Chase. So obviously you can see it's a right turn. It's nice and downhill. If we look on the map, we can see the decline here. So this sounds like a nice thing, as does the gradual decline of Pressbury Road. But this is all putting us into a false sense of security. You will look at your watch, hopefully somewhere around this point, your watch or your device, and you'll probably see that you're running a lot faster than what you're expecting to. And it won't feel difficult whatsoever. And the same will go for the half marathon. We continue all the way down Pressbury Road, down here to, I assume this is Winchcombe Street. And then we're doing a little bit of a loop out and around towards Sanford Park Ale House. So again, this is fairly flat. You can see on the map here, bear in mind that it looks a lot bigger hills than what it really is. You can see that the difference in elevation here is only like 66. At the lowest point we're at 54, so it's not a huge amount of decline here, but at this stage most of you will be feeling really good. You've only run 3K, 4K by this stage. By the time you're going past the town hall here, I think this is the town hall, and this is where you'll find a lot of support, so a lot of motivation all through this area, a lot of people out, and it all kind of lends itself to this feeling of I'm doing great, I'm smashing it, maybe today I'm going to be lucky This is the mindset that some people can get into. Maybe it's a magical day for me and it's all going to work out. Maybe somehow I'm going to hold this speed, which is, potentially, 30 seconds per K, a minute per K faster than what you should be running at, 1 kilometer per hour, 2 kilometers per hour faster than what you think you should be running at. But then things start to change. Okay, so then we have the Honeybourne line. So you're going to come in past Waitrose car park here, and this is all flat, and it kind of narrows out. There's quite a lot. When I ran the half last year, I hit a lot of 10K traffic, so I'd caught up with some of the 10K runners along this stretch, and it did hold me up, although I just drafted someone and sort of let them weave me through the traffic. But you're then getting onto the Honeybourne line. So this is the underpass. So you've got the bridge over top the tunnel, and then you've got this climb up to the Waitrose Bridge here. So we all know that this is a decent little climb, short and sharp, not very nice, and this will be when it really starts to hurt. So if you've got your pacing wrong, if you've started too quick, then this is when you'll start to notice that it's getting hot and it's getting really quite uncomfortable. And I remember passing 2 or 3 of our members at this point. They were running the 10K at this point, and I tapped them on the back, and I could just see by the way they were. In fact, one was walking. I could just see that they were struggling as I caught up with them. And again, it was hot last year, but it's going to be hot this year. Out to Prince of Wales Stadium, past the Leisure Centre, Tommy Taylor's Lane, onto Albemarle Gate. There's a bit of a decline here, and then we all know that it kicks up a bit as it approaches Evesham Road. And see where we are. Okay, yeah. So you can see this is the lowest point of the route here. So from here to the end, so that's Prince of Wales Stadium to the end, it's a pretty consistent up. The only little down bit there you're seeing is Albemarle Gate, but then we're coming on to Evesham Road, so it's a little bit of up, and then Hillcourt Road, which, if you drive Hillcourt Road, this one here, it doesn't seem like it's a hill, but we do intervals here, don't we? And I always ask you to start from this end, the Evesham Road end, because I know that there is an incline here. Hopefully you won't feel it, but I can pretty much guarantee you will, because by this time in the race, even in a 10K race, if you've been pushing yourself, then it's going to be painful. You're just over a K from the finish. You'll get up to the New Barn Lane, and there'll be loads of support up along here, which is great, right when you need it. And then you can literally just bolt your way down to the finish. So that finish is going to be much more preferable compared to what it was last year, where we were coming up a hill into the race course. So that is the 10K route. There's a lot more downhill, as you can see in the first half, compared to in the second half. It's a down and up, right? Like, it's very easy to get it wrong, and this is probably the main reason that so many people do get it wrong. But let's dive in. Do we have any questions on the 10K route? I'm not sure how many people are doing the 10K route. Anything they're not sure about?
Yeah, I just think it'd be really interesting to ask. So what would you do in that situation? Go hard at the start for the first half where you've got the downhill, or go easy and then save it for the harder part in the second half?
I love this question. This is the key question, because so many people, and at times myself, have fooled themselves into thinking that it's free to run fast downhill. It's not costing you anything, right? But actually, even though your lungs feel good running downhill, it's hard to really make your lungs work harder when you're running down a hill. The impact on your legs is taking a toll. Okay, and at the end of a race, and a 10K race for some is all about the lungs, right? They can bust a gut the whole way, and it's their lungs that stops them going faster. For a lot of people that do Cheltenham's 10K, the distance is still significant. So it's the legs that will be the hard part at the end. The legs will run out of energy. So the more that you smash your legs running fast down these hills, and on the flat in the first half, the less energy you're going to have to go up the hills to the finish line. So I know from my own experience that if I hold myself back, stick to the pace that I've targeted with a decline or even with a tailwind, and I've tested this with tailwinds as well, which are also very, it feels like you're just running free. You don't have to work hard and you're running at this amazing speed, but it comes back to bite you later. So this is why it's so hard. And this is why it's so important to set a target pace for that first half of the race. Like if you know that if you are a lot, way ahead of your target speed at this, halfway point or around where, especially where it starts to increase, you're going to really find it and not a nice experience in the last, that's going to be last 3.5 kilometers for the 10K runners, where there's a lot of uphill to come. Whereas if you've been, vigilant, you've stuck to your target pace for the first half, then you're going to find that come around the halfway point, it feels like people are going backwards and you're starting to overtake people. Because again, a lot of people will get it wrong on the day. They will have gone off at the speed that felt right for the first 5K, but their body can't sustain that and they're having to slow down and slow down and slow down. And that's extremely motivating, no matter how uncompetitive you claim to be. If you're passing people, it motivates you. Right, not necessarily to motivate you to run faster, but it's like positive reinforcement. Like I'm doing something right here, and it's really fun to pass people, for the last half of a race. And even just running next to people, you can hear them breathing, you can hear the stress that they're under if they have, paced themselves aggressively. And if you don't feel like you can hear they feel, if they're huffing and puffing and you're feeling quite in control, then that's also quite a positive experience for you to know that actually you're still holding something back and you're going to be able to push hard at the end and make decisions all the way to the end. We're going to talk more about this. So I'm going to jump back into the half marathon and then we'll get into a bit more into the pace strategy. So half marathon. Zoom out here so we can see it's the same start, and we will meet like, sorry, get out of the way. We will meet like here, do our warm up and down this stretch here. We've done it every year that we've been at this location. Every year of the Cheltenham Half Marathon, the start points here, we've met at the same spot, so it's not going to be too busy. It'll be fine. So anyway, the half marathon is very different to the 10K. We're heading down New Barn Lane again, but just after you've done the steepest part of New Barn Lane, you get to turn back on yourself. So chances are there'll be a cone in the middle of the road right here. And I know it's the bottom of the hill because this is like New Barn Close. Okay, and that's definitely flat here, and there's a bus stop around about here somewhere. So, and we can even see it right here. I'm sorry, right here. Yes, so you can see that's the top of New Barn Lane, and then that's the downhill bit, and you got to turn around a cone and then run back up, and then you get to turn left again. So this won't hurt that much because you'll be full of energy, and I suggest that anyone doing a half marathon almost sees this point here as a chance to say, okay, I'm back to elevation neutral. I haven't gained or lost elevation. Where's my target? Where is my speed compared to what I've targeted for this event? If I'm way faster, then I know this is a good time to start just reining it back. So we're going to head down through Prestbury Chase onto Prestbury Road, right down to Winchcombe Street again, taking the left. This is like Albion Road, down to Sandford Park Alehouse. And yeah, again, we're going to be coming to this junction at the where the 10K runners turn off right and half marathoners turn left. So again, all of this is fairly flat. And it looks undulating, but you won't notice it too much. I assume this, yeah, this is, I'm trying to figure out why there's a hill here. It's not Montpellier Walk, is it? No. So there must be a subtle climb here. But when we get onto Montpellier Walk, obviously that's where it starts to go up, and you'll definitely feel yourself breathing here. I've been to a lot of Cheltenham half marathons when I haven't been racing, and I've been on my bike and seeing people get to the top of this hill, and you can see that they're actually struggling, and they've only got to 5.6k in the race. It's not a nice place to be, right? So you really don't want to be that guy at this point in the race. You can see we're continuing along here. In previous years, they've continued past the college and taken the right turn here, and then back onto the route. So it's a slightly earlier turn, and this is where the more changes come in from previous years. So this is your equivalent of the race course. You don't have to go around the race course, but you've got this instead. So we're turning left here. I couldn't actually tell you what name of the street this is, but we're heading towards Park Campus, aren't we? So a quick loop of that.
That's Park Place, Connor.
Park what?
Park Place is the road
Thank you.
goes up, and then it goes on to the Park Campus.
Right. Thanks, Lee. So that's Park, yeah. Perfect. But this is all flat, right? So it should be quite nice.
The slight uphill till you get about halfway around the campus, about maybe where you are now.
Yep.
Then it sort of goes down a little bit, and then it does rise up back to the junction slightly.
Right. So this on the whole is a subtle.
Yeah.
There's a dip, and then in the Park Place Road, there's a bit of a dip once you get away from the junction, and then it goes gradually upwards, all the way to the halfway mark of the loop around it.
Yeah, cool. So then we're back onto the main road, onto Lansdowne Road for a little bit before heading out around Heatherley, around Dean Close. And there's a bit of incline here, isn't there? I remember.
It's decline and then incline.
So the inclines. Yeah.
It's a bit undulating also, and a lot of turns and a bit undulating in this section. Till we hit the road, till we hit the main road, it's a bit undulating.
Yeah. So yeah, again, we're halfway through the race here, right around Dean Close. So you definitely want to have got your average speed or average pace down to whatever your target was. If you have, then you can start thinking about potentially progressing it. If you're starting to feel good at this point, at the halfway point, maybe especially if you've set a really conservative target speed, then you can now start to thinking about, do I want to just increase it very gradually as we head towards the end of the race. So back down Montpellier Walk, through town a little bit. Again, this is all pretty flat. Along past Waitrose and onto the Honeybourne line, just like we did with the 10K. Again, you're probably going to come into quite a bit of traffic, potentially passing 10K runners at this point. Again, we're still sticking with what we had for the 10K along to Albemarle Gate. This was where it gets a bit interesting. So it's actually good to have a little graph down here to actually see exactly what direction we go next. So taking a right down Evesham Road, past Central Cross Cafe, okay, right to the end, Pittville Lawn, and then there's this little bit extra that they're adding on to mop up some distance that we've lost from the race course before heading up Albert Road. We get up to the pump rooms, and then we're going back down towards the lake. So we all know this decline here and this incline past the children's playground before getting back on to, West Approach, and then back onto Evesham Road, Hillcourt Road, and then our fast finish. So that's the route. I think it should be easier than previous years, finishing around the race course. Certainly the last bit should be easier. It'd be nice to have traction under your feet, and we all know these roads well, and if you can remember the route, you'll have it in your head. You know where the finish line is, and you know what you've got to work through to get there. But it doesn't, skip the part of the fact that you've got a lot of incline to to get in the final, couple of kilometers of the race. So it is still more decline in the first half and more incline in the second half, right? So it's still very easy to get wrong. The temperature is going to be going up, throughout the morning, and we'll jump into that very shortly. So, any questions or any more thoughts on the half marathon route? No, cool. Well, feel free to ask questions anytime, guys. But what I want to jump into next is, setting that target pace. So ideally, you're all recording your runs, and especially your long runs, with something like Garmin or Strava or Runkeeper, and you can have a look back through your long runs and see what sort of speed you've been achieving for a similar distance to what you're racing. Okay, so you might not have got up to half marathon distance if you're training for the half, but it'd be worth having a look at what your average speed was for a long run of somewhere around, hopefully you got up to 18k, but if it was 16k, then have a look at that. But the point of looking at your data is obviously to try and give you some idea of what's realistically possible as a bare minimum pace for you on race day. So that on race day, you know that in the last 2 or 3 weeks, you've done a run which proves, is basically evidence for yourself that you can not only finish the distance, but do it at a certain speed. So if you have run the race distance in training, then you know that you can, in the last 3 weeks, then you know that you can do that distance at that speed, assuming that the route was similar, right? So obviously, if it was a downhill route, you can't really compare it to the Cheltenham 10K or a Cheltenham half marathon. But that, I think it's good for everyone to start with a conservative pace in mind, and then we can sort of work various factors around whether you increase that target speed, maybe because it's going to be on closed roads, and there's you don't have to go up and down footpaths as much. You don't have to stop at roads, you don't have to cross roads. That's going to gain you some speed. So you can say, all right, well, let's just go really simple and say 6 minutes per K or 10 kilometers per hour, right? So if that was our target speed for the event, whether we're talking half or 10K, right? So I've got a run on Strava that proves that I can hold 10 kilometers per hour for 10K, right? So, and today I know, for this race, I know that it's going to be on closed roads, so I expect to be able to do that maybe half a kilometer an hour faster than what I would if running through the streets of Cheltenham on a typical Sunday. Then I need to compare the weather on that day to what I'm expecting on Sunday. So if we look at the weather for Sunday, you can see that at 9 a.m, hopefully we'll get some cloud cover. There's a bit of wind. 17 degrees, it's going to be 18 degrees. If you're doing the 10K, you're definitely going to get hit with 17 to 18 degrees. If you're doing the half marathon, expecting it to take 2 or 3 hours, the longer it takes, the closer you're going to get to 20 degrees. It's going to get really hot. So if that is a higher temperature than what you experienced on that last long run that you're comparing to, then you might want to start dropping some speed off, right? So that how I said we went from 10 kilometers per hour up to 10.5 kilometers per hour is my target. Well, now I'm thinking actually it's hotter this time, so I'm going to drop that back only by a couple of points of a kilometer per hour. So let's just take it back to 10.2 kilometers per hour, and that's my new target speed. You want to then also think about the wind is somewhat of a factor for this. Okay, we can see it's westerly. Normally it's heading north, so it's almost west. So this is going to mean that we're probably not going to. There's not a lot of running into a westerly, is there? It's really just Albemarle Gate. You're not going to notice it here because it's when you're fresh and it's the start of a race. You might notice it a little bit coming up the Honeybourne line. You're going to notice everything on the Honeybourne line because by this stage we're all starting to feel it. But Albemarle Gate, you will pretty much be running directly into the wind. So some of you will know I'm a big fan of drafting. Use other people to block the wind for you. Hopefully it doesn't get higher than 7, but you know, there's a good chance that the weather forecast is going to change. Like on race day, you show up and it's hotter than what we've talked about tonight, or it's windier than what we've talked about tonight. You need to change your target speed to account for that. But if it is windy, then you definitely want to be just running behind someone or 2 people. Let them shield the wind for a while you recover, and then you can leave them behind as you start to head north to the finish line. So the wind will be somewhat of a factor. The heat's probably much bigger. Think next about your condition. How close did you get to race distance in training? If you've really haven't had a very good build up for this event, then you want to be going super conservative with your target speed, okay? Because and that's really hard to do, right? Because a lot of us will go into a race with a finish time in mind. They might not even look at the speed that is going to be required to achieve that finish time, but they know what the time is. And then you look at what's the target speed if that's my finish time. If you're going to work back from that, you are taking a big risk. You need to be able to compare what you've actually proven you can do recently, either in training or a recent race result. Compare that to what your target is, based on what you want to achieve, that round number, whether it be 2 hours or 1:30 or whatever, under an hour. We want to compare those two and actually try and push this one away and think more about what's realistic for me to ensure that I have a good race. If you have been doing lots of racing and you've done the training, you've been on a plan and it's all been going fantastically, then you can set a much more aggressive pace for yourself, a much more aggressive target. And that target you want, you will know that you are pretty damn close to being able to just start at that speed and finish at that speed or slightly higher, right? Whereas a lot of people that are doing Cheltenham, they should be starting slower than their target, and then as the race goes on, increasing speed. And then you get that motivation, like I talked about earlier, of passing people and the crowd cheering you on, and you actually having the ability to make decisions as to whether you speed up or slow down or stick at the same speed. And what influences decisions could be who you want to draft off, or just you might get into a bit of a battle with someone if you are competitive. You've been running with the same person the whole way through the race, and you're thinking, actually, this person is really nice, but they haven't spoken to me the whole race. And damn it, I want to finish fast and beat them. So you might decide, well, actually, what kind of a runner is this that I'm running next to, right? It could just be fun. It's going to motivate you to finish in your fastest time at the end of the day if you race this person, right? If they look like they are a light person and quite athletic, then they've probably got a really good sprint finish, and you're better off running faster and pushing them harder. And if they're competitive, they'll try and stick with you. If they're not, they'll just drop off, which is fine. Or they could be maybe they look or sound like they are more of a plodder, more of a long distance runner. They're strong over a long distance, but maybe they don't look like they're going to be as good at a sprint finish as you, in which case you want to just stick with them, draft them, sit behind them, let yourself recover. And then, when you get to the top of the hill, or where you think it's a good point to start your sprint finish, I think that the top of the hill is always going to be an obvious spot. If you're feeling good, having held yourself back through here, you're just going to leave them behind on the way down the hill. It's probably a small portion of you who are thinking about the race like I'm talking about now. So I'm going to stop talking about how to beat someone 1-to-1. But it is fun. So think about your condition. Have you built up the gas tank? Have you done the distance in training to know that you can finish this race, or are you uncertain? If you're uncertain, set a conservative race pace and stick to it as well as you can for the first half, and then in the second half, gradually increase it if you are feeling good. Right? There's nothing wrong with just holding the same pace the whole way around, or at least until the last bit. Most people can't even achieve that. Most people will finish the second half of their race slower, and some considerably slower than the first half. A lot of you have done our 5-day challenge, so you know the whole purpose of that, and the benefits that you can reap from doing that first run, getting a target speed in mind, and then doing the second run. We get a lot of people break their personal bests as part of our 5-day challenge simply because they've figured out how to pace themselves better by doing 2 runs of the same route. Yeah, consider your if you're comparing 2 runs, so you're comparing a previous long run, you know, think about what the hills were on that previous run. So if it was a flatter run than what we've got here, you know, don't let that fool you. The hills will play a part. The weather, I've talked about, you know, the fact that you can change your plan on the day. So again, you could arrive and it's windier than you expected, but even during the race, you can change your plan. You can change your target speed. So most of the time, if we're changing it to make it slower. We've realized that actually I'm not feeling as good as I hoped to. If you don't change if you're feeling like that in the first half of the race and you don't change your target speed, if you don't decrease your speed before it's too late, then you are increasing the chance you're going to be forced to drastically decrease your speed later in the race. The sooner you make that decision, oh shit, this isn't going how I was expecting it to. I'm much hotter than I thought. You know, or maybe there's not as many water stations, or maybe the water stations have run out of water. If something's not going well, the sooner you can actually push your ego away and say, right, today it's not about what I've done before. It's just I've got to get round here, and I want to finish strong. I want to feel good at the finish. I want to be proud of the way that this went. The sooner you adjust your target speed to something more realistic, the less it's going to hurt later in the race. Because if you change it too late, it's probably not even a decision you get to make. You're just forced to slow down, and you don't even realize it until you look back at your lap splits and realize how badly you paced the run. Obviously, you can increase your target speed as well during a race. You know, things are going well. Maybe you've got in with a really good bunch that you've just been trailing the whole way, you know, and you know, they've been drafting you, and you've been cruising along at your target speed, and you know, maybe your heart rate's down in the 140s or 150s, and that's a comfortable place for you. And you know, you've just come out of the honeyborn line, and you're starting to think, actually, this target speed it's got me where I wanted it to, and now I want to gradually push on. And you might even just it'd be clever to pick a target speed from that point on, but yeah, obviously you can change it anytime you want. So ideally, we would have you all now try and figure out a target speed. So I want to actually give you a bit of time to jump on Strava or your Garmin and actually have a quick look at your most recent long run and check out the average speed, and then have a go at reducing that or increasing that depending on how that run compared to what you're expecting to experience on race day. So I'm going to talk a little bit, but I want to give you all a chance to do that. Any idea what you would go for, Paul, as a target speed for your event?
Yeah, so I did Solihull Sunday before last, half marathon, similar kind of climate, super hot. So that pace was 4:35. So that came in at 1:36. So I'm trying to get anywhere between 1:35 and 1:30. To get to 1:30 would be fantastic, but I don't know if it's achievable right now for me.
1:30 half marathon, talking about 4 minutes 15 per K.
Yeah.
Sorry, was it minutes per K or minutes per mile? You're just minutes per K, weren't you?
Okay, so average pace for Solihull was 4 minutes 35 per kilometre.
Yeah.
So
the 1:30 is probably unrealistic.
yeah.
Hmm.
Thanks, Connor. Just
sorry, I can't be blunt, but I just
cool.
Well, I mean, has anything drastic changed since then?
No,
maybe in your training.
No, as I say, I mean, I think to get 1:30 would be amazing, but yeah, maybe sort of somewhere in between, because I think knowing the route,
yep,
I think it'll make a considerable difference for me.
Sorry, I just need to rejig. So you did 1:36 and a half marathon. The average pace was 4:35. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how well do you think that time represented your ability on the day? 1 to 10. 10 is like you aced it. Your pacing was perfect, even split.
It was about.
Couldn't have done any better.
It was about somewhere between a 7 and an 8.
Cool. So
I finished thinking I still had a little bit more in the tank, and that's what I'm thinking. I've never done and this is something I'm going to change. I've never done a half marathon knowing the route. I just run it. So I think knowing the route, and also James and I were talking about this on the weekend, just watching my watch.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be the difference, is knowing the pace that I'm going and then pushing myself into discomfort will make, I'm hoping, like maybe 2 minutes different on the overall time.
That'd be very impressive. I mean, the fact that you're rating it, did you say 6 out of 10 or 7?
7 out of 10, I said, yeah.
So your pacing wasn't great for that event, you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's good news in that there's still potential to go faster, isn't there? There's definitely potential for a faster time. So what do you think? Is there anything else that would make you run faster in this event than you did in that one? Or run a better time? How many weeks ago was it?
2.
Okay, so fitness-wise, you shouldn't be much fitter.
No.
Really.
No.
So yeah, it's literally just down to your pacing on the day.
Yeah.
And how well you can push yourself.
And knowing the course.
But what's the difference knowing the course? It means you're more likely to pace yourself better.
Yeah, I mean, I think whenever I've done a run before and it's not local, then you don't know what the halfway point is. Or I don't, because I don't study the map.
If you look at your watch, though.
Yeah. So I think now I'll be thinking, right, okay, got past Sanford Ale House. That's the sort of first, should be into the pace by now. Hit the Honeybourne, know the Honeybourne like the back of my hand, so I can run that pretty well. You've got that wiggle at the end, which is say the bit of the increase in the gradient. So I think having that sort of in my head, I wouldn't say I've ever had that before in doing a race.
And that can help to relax you. You know, being able to relax and find rhythm is really important, obviously, for performance. The more that you're thinking, you're having to make decisions, that does actually eat into your energy, what you can dedicate, your resources that you can dedicate to going faster. So hopefully there's something in that. So go on then, give us a number or a speed range. What's your target speed range for the first half of this race? When you get to Sanford Ale House, what do you want to see on that watch?
I need to work that out. I don't know.
So that's something between 4:35, which is what you did the other day.
Well, what would 1:34? What would a finish time of 1:34 be?
So 1:34 so I've got 1:33 and 46 seconds. I'm just looking at my thing, but that would be an average speed of 4.426, basically 429 to 426 per K. So if you could hit that target, so you're just thinking about your finish time now, aren't you?
Yeah.
The exercise that I want everyone looking at is what am I going to aim for as a target speed? So we can assume that you're going to go a bit faster because you know the course better, right? So let's just say that takes you from 4:35 per K, which is 13.1 kilometers per hour. I'm going to take that to, let's just say 13.4 kilometers per hour, which is 4:29 per K. So that's 5 seconds per kilometer faster, given the fact that you now know the course. And we could probably bump that a little bit further if you actually pace it well, right? So you don't stuff up. If you hit your target speed, it's a 10 out of 10. It was perfectly even the whole way. You didn't run faster down the hill because it feels like it's free and it doesn't cost you anything. You actually stuck to this target speed right from the start. Then I think we could drop you down to 4:23, right? So that's a finish time of 1:32.24. But then what that also does is it gives you the potential for magic. Okay, so magic, adrenaline, magic, same thing, right? If you get yourself into the zone because you have paced yourself so well, and you are passing people, or maybe you've got yourself into a really good race with one person, or maybe even a few people, but that's where the magic can happen. You've got your adrenaline stores. They haven't been utilized as you destroyed yourself in the first half. You can actually tap into that. And that is where the magic can happen. You can push yourself harder than what you ever have because you've paced yourself perfectly the whole way through. And you've got this extra motivation of the people around you, whether that's the supporters, the people you're racing against, and the fact that you're seeing the number on your watch keep ticking faster and faster and faster, potentially, right? Or maybe you're just holding this pace. And you know that if you were to hold 4:19 per K, then you're doing 1:31, right? And the more that speed starts to increase as you get closer to the end, the faster you're going to get again, because the motivation is just feeding your motivation. But the only way that you can turn motivation into a result, into speed, is if you haven't yourself earlier in the race.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what everyone does. They give themselves no chance of finishing fast, no chance of experiencing the zone, being in the zone. I'm sure you've all heard of the zone in other sports. The only way you can put yourself in a potential to experience that is if you have paced yourself and reserved a little bit so that your brain can still operate and make decisions and motivate, give you that extra motivation. Right. So this is why I'm such a big believer in setting a target pace and just sticking to it religiously throughout the race. And some people, they're very techie people, and Lee Phillips is one of these, actually sets up on Garmin the course. So Lee, I haven't actually done this myself, but I know that you've done it, and I've seen the ability to do it where you can set target speeds for different sections of the race. And your watch will actually tell you whether you are ahead of those targets or behind. And if you've got your watch buzzing at you whenever you get out of your target speed zone, then that's just another way to remind you to get back in where you should be. I don't do it because I look at my watch like every minute, it's just habit. You just want to set regular, not set regular intervals, but just have regular reminders to check your watch and see how far ahead of your target you are, and just accept or just believe in the idea that as long as you keep that number in the target period, or that target speed that you want, if you keep it there, if you believe that doing that is going to get you the best result and the best experience on the day, then hopefully you will slow down when you realize that you're going too fast, and you'll give yourself a better chance of finishing fast and having that perfect experience of the Cheltenham 10K or half marathon. So with that, should we jump into some questions? Any questions that people have about anything race related? It's too late to think about training. The question may come up, should I run on Thursday night? Yes, you should run on Thursday night. We are set to do a 45-minute club run, you're welcome to shorten that, no problem. But if you've been running, more than an hour in training, then there's no reason why a 45-minute run is going to hurt you on race day, unless you run that too fast. Okay, so the key is it's good to run a few days before a race. Some people will run the day before a race, but they're used to doing that for a start. So don't do that unless you're used to doing it. But also, it's all about stress. If you're going to put your body under stress in the days before a race, it's going to hurt your performance. But there's no reason why a typical Thursday night club run with the club should put your body under stress that it's not going to recover from on race day. Not running at all in the week of a race is going to lead to feeling stale on race day. So running in the days before a race is not bad for you. It's going to mean that you feel fresh, and once you've done your warm-up, you're going to feel, hopefully you should feel really good, because you are fresh and sharp, if you like. So yeah, any questions, guys? Amy?
Yeah, I've got a question, because I've just been looking through the blurb. What is the drink station situation, and the sort of what do they give us in terms of energy drinks and stuff like that? Because I can't actually see it on the maps, so I'm not quite sure what it is, what we get, or whether I need to take my own.
There's one disadvantage of being injured and not actually racing in the event that you're doing a workshop on, and that is that I don't have the race pack. Who knows the
I've
answer?
actually looked through it, what's on the phone app, and I can't see anything specific. It's quite vague. So if anyone else has spotted it, I'd be interested.
Caroline's got her hand up. She might have the answer.
It is on those maps, but they're quite difficult to see because they printed them on dark blue. But I think there's sort of drops of water.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen that. Is that
Am I looking on the wrong map then? I probably am. Thank you, Caroline. I'll have another look.
Right. So the animation that they do.
I think it's because I was looking on this road closure one instead.
Oh no,
It's not that one.
It's the one with the blue, dark blue. Actually, Connor, you I think had it up there.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, sorry. Okay, I'll
Right.
stop being a clown. I'll have a look.
That's all right.
We've got to tell him not to
the...
in future use that blue.
I thought there was 3 on the 10 and
there are
6 on the half.
6? Oh wow, that's fine then.
Yeah. There's lots of blue, white drops.
They increased it because last year it wasn't, poorly.
Enough.
It wasn't enough.
Wasn't enough. No.
There's a lot.
I've attached the event guide in the chat.
Thank you.
Thanks, Fish.
I do think though, Amy, there's only one site that's doing any energy drinks. What race are you running?
I'm running the half. What I'll do is I'll take my own gels, and I have blocks, so I know what I like.
Yeah.
It was just about how much water to take. So I did one the other week, and it was boiling. We started at 11:30, and I took all my own drink really, just because it was quite hard to stop. And then they only give you these tiny little cups. Yeah. And it's just like, by the time you stop and have one of those, you end up hanging around, and then you say, can I have another one, please? Because you don't want to you can't take loads because they're trying to reduce the plastic.
Yeah.
But you only get a thimble full. So you're just there going, oh, can you top me up? And then by the time you mess about with that, you've been stood there for about 2 minutes. Sorry, Connor, that's one of my tips when you were looking at my result.
Yeah, no, it's good. I mean, look, we all know that hydration is a big thing when it comes to this event, especially on the half.
Yeah, I think I'll just wear my race vest and take my bottles, and then I know what I've got then.
Yeah.
Cool, thank you.
No worries. Any other questions, guys? Oh, Caroline?
Yeah, sorry, this is probably a very obvious thing to most people, but what's the protocol for passing people? I'm thinking particularly because they're presumably us on the 10K are suddenly going to find very, very fast people coming up behind us at some point.
I don't know. There's a defined etiquette for it.
If anything, I think common sense. If you just stick, if you feel you're going to hold people up, then just try and stick to the side. It's the same. I don't know if you do park run. There's guidelines for park run, but you still get people running 2-3 abreast who are slower and taking up most of the. It is. I know it's there for everyone, but there's still guidelines that leave some room for people to pass.
Yeah, I think, Caroline, it's just left or right, isn't it? It's probably what you're wondering.
I guess so, yeah.
I just run behind people that are going at your speed, as in left or right. I don't think there's a set side of the footpath, but obviously it's only really going to be an issue, past Waitrose and up the Honeybourne line. Apart from that, it's all open
it's
road.
just a couple of nasty corners there, aren't there, where you could get a lot of people together. Okay, thanks.
No worries. Any other questions or thoughts? Anything that any of you other experienced runners are thinking that you're going to do that we haven't discussed? Secret strategies that you want to share with us tonight?
And no secret strategies. I know you mentioned about the meeting point. I think it might be an idea to circulate the meeting point. There's been a couple of questions on the WhatsApp.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'll do that. Easy. I literally only realized that the starting point was not the finish point today, so I'm glad I did realize it before I post about the meeting point, because that could have been interesting if we met down at the finish line. But yeah, no, absolutely. 8:30 generally for the half marathon kicks off at 9, I assume. So we do
9 and 10 at 9:40, I think.
Did you say 9:30? No, half at 9.
Sorry, the half is at 9.
Yeah.
And the 10K is at 9:40.
Cool. So I'll run 2 warm-ups. One for each distance. But yeah, the half marathon runners ideally will start warm up soon after 8:30. Certainly want to get photos and get people rounded up at 8:30 with view to doing warm up probably around 22. I know people get nervous about getting into the pen, but as we learned last year, it's very rare that you're going to be late getting into your pen. I know if they started at 9, you might be worried, but it's usually pretty easy to find just where you want to be in the start pens, whether that be jumping a fence or pushing between barriers. But yeah, so you want to do a good warm up, standard club warm up. You're welcome to do more if you want before or after. But I would encourage everyone, even those doing maybe their first half marathon and worried about burning out during the race, I'd still encourage you to do a decent warm up beforehand. But yeah, great guys. Well, great to have you all in tonight. Thank you very much for coming along, and we'll look forward to seeing you, if not Thursday night, then bright and early on Sunday morning for the race.
Thanks, Connor.
All right.
Cool.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Connor.
Thank you.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.
Cheers, everyone.